The Tecno Spark 30C is the first device Tecno is releasing from the Spark 30 series. It comes with a refreshed design as against what we saw on the Tecno Spark 20C that was released earlier. We have an IR blaster here that is used to control electronics, and we also have a 50 megapixel primary camera, a 6.67 inch IPS LCD display with a 120 Hz refresh rate, which is the first time we are seeing such a high refresh rate on the C series of the Tecno Spark lineup. You also get additional features on the dynamic ports, which is something I've personally been clamoring for, and specs on paper is telling half of the story most of the time. Here is everything you need to know about the Tecno Spark 30C. Now, Tecno is still one of those brands that is generous enough to give you everything in the box. You get a USB-C to A cable, a SIM ejector tool, an earpiece, a silicone TPU case that I have with me here, and it fits the phone perfectly. And you also get the phone itself. For the price, it starts at 140,000 naira, which is equivalent to around $90, and that is such a competitive price point. We have the Redmi 13C, the Itel S24, and even the Tecno Spark 20 as alternatives to this. I have reviewed all the phones that I mentioned earlier, and I'll link the video in the description. Let me also know which phone you want me to compare this device to. Personally, I want to compare it to the Itel S24 because they are around the same price and they share some similarities. But I would like to know your thoughts in the comment. Which phone would you want me to compare with the Tecno Spark 30C? I'll be glad to make those videos for you. Now, the phone is made of plastic at the back. It's a matte plastic which doesn't really show fingerprint stains. It hides the stains because of the finish at the back. There is a circular camera cutout at the back, and it's kind of different from the Spark 20C that has a square camera finish that made it look like an iPhone. Now, at a glance, when I saw this phone, I quickly remembered the Tecno Camon 30. It has this sort of design. There are two cameras here, while the third camera is the IR blaster. Like I said earlier, it's used to control electronics, and it is also available on the Tecno Pop 9. The Spark 30C feels good to hold in the hand. The weight distribution around the phone is great. It's kind of lightweight, and the rounded edges makes it comfortable to use. Now, the phone also has an IP54 splash and dust resistance rating. Impressive for a device that costs just $90. It's not completely waterproof. You get two speakers and they sound really great, and we also have a side mounted fingerprint scanner that is quite fast. The volume keys are slightly above the fingerprint scanner and they are tactile. The Tecno Spark 30C supports dual 4G SIM cards, and there is also a slot for memory card on the left side of the frame. Of course, the frame is also made of plastic, and it also has a matte finish to hide stains. I have the Orbit black color option, and the other color available is Orbit white. There are only two color options available for this device, and I'll say the design and build quality for the phone is really great. You also get a headphone port, and it charges through a USB-C port. Now, let's quickly talk about the display of this phone. We have a 6.67 inch IPS LCD display with a 720p resolution and a 120 Hz refresh rate. Personally, I would have preferred a 1080p resolution on this phone and the 90 Hz refresh rate, because I feel the chipset used on this phone can support 1080p. The display is quite sharp and fluid, and in the settings you even get to choose between the refresh rates, including the 120 Hz option. It's best you leave it at 90 Hz because that's where it will be most of the time. You hardly get that 120 Hz refresh rate that Tecno claims this display has. You can watch movies or YouTube on this phone, and it's going to be quite enjoyable because it is quite vivid and sharp for the price. The bezels around the phone are quite noticeable as expected on a budget phone, and the punch hole cutout isn't quite intrusive, which is something I personally like. It also has some additional features with the dynamic port. There is also a front-facing flashlight hidden on the front for selfie in low light areas. You will enjoy playing games on this display, and the peak brightness is 500 nits. And outdoors, if the brightness isn't all the way up, you might struggle to see the display. Advisably, it's best you set it to adaptive brightness. That way, you will be okay regardless of the environment you are. I would say the display is okay for me. My only wish is 1080p and 90 Hz, because I'm sure there will be other phones that will use the same processor and opt for 90 Hz and 1080p resolution. But we don't have that on the Tecno Spark 30C, and let's just see how the market is going to be before the end of the year. There are a lot of phones coming. But for me, this display is not really the best, but I'll say it's okay for the price. Performance-wise, we have the MediaTek Helio G81, and it's a new processor. I'll say it's a slight upgrade from the Helio G80. Nothing really crazy, just decent, and handling a bit of multitasking. Apps open up decently, and you can also play games like Call of Duty, PUBG Mobile, and other demanding titles on this phone. But the experience is not going to be the best. You also won't be able to play at the best graphic settings. There will be lags and stutters while playing games, and I feel you won't really enjoy it. It's more suitable for basic tasks like scrolling across social media, texting, and calling people. I would say performance is expected for this price. It's not super crazy, but I feel it's okay considering the fact that you are spending below $100 to buy this phone. And I'm not sure there are other competing phones out there that might give you better performance within the price. But like I said earlier, there are a lot of phones coming, and we are going to keep an eye on them and compare them when they are available to this one. I'm impressed with the multitasking that you can do with the dynamic port, which is a bit of an upgrade coming from the animations it displays. You can control music, which I feel is a plus. It runs on Android 14, and HRS 14.5 is the user interface. The software experience is quite fluid, and there are minimal bloatwares on the phone. 4 years lasting fluency is what you get, written boldly on the packaging of this phone, but there is no clarity about it. Maybe this device might get frequent software updates that will make it last beyond 4 years. I can't really say, but as soon as I get any information, I'm going to update you guys. Now, I also appreciate the fact that there are no ads on the interface of this phone. You can also use split screen, open 2 apps at the same time. That's if the apps support that feature, of course. You can also use floating windows, which is something that is rare around this price point. I have to give credits to Tecno for bringing split screen and floating windows to this phone, because it's something customers really ask for. I'm going to say that the app icons are typical of Tecno's user interface. Some are even a little bit refined. I love the fluidity of the software and how it responds when you swipe or tap an app to launch it. You can also customize the phone to look anyhow. Of course, it's an Android phone, and I'm going to say software is quite okay for this phone. Android 14 and HROS 14.5, and hopefully we are going to get at least 2 software updates on this phone to match the lasting fluency they claim. We have a 50 megapixel primary camera, and there is a second VGA lens that isn't really useful. The selfie is 8 megapixel and pictures appear on point, sharp, well detailed, and HDR is quite present in well lit environment as well. You can see the pictures. You can see how clear the cloud is in this picture. It's not a camera-centric device, but for the price, I'll say it's very okay. I snapped some pictures using the cameras, and you can shoot videos at up to 2K 30 frames per second with both the front and back camera, which is impressive for the price. Let me know your thoughts about the camera in the comment section. I'd like to know them, and just tell me what you think about the pictures. The battery is 5000 mAh, and it can last an entire day on a single charge. It can even last maybe 2 days if you are someone who doesn't really do much on your phone. You also get an 18 watts charger inside the box when you buy the Spark 30C, which again, chargers are now starting to go missing in boxes for a while now, and even some brands tend to remove charger on their much more affordable phones like this. Battery is probably one of the best features of the Spark 30C. The Spark 30C is a statement from Tecno to keep up with the competition in the budget segment. There are a lot of phones coming that will find it hard to compete with the Spark 30C in terms of the value for money it offers. It's a well-balanced phone, and it's suitable for casual users, and maybe high-end users that want a backup phone they can depend on can also look to the Spark 30C. The camera, performance, and build quality, I would say, is great for the price. But what else do you want to know about the Spark 30C? Maybe something that I didn't talk about. Let me know in the comment section, and I'll be glad to reply you, and I'll see you in my next video.